Hey, my name is Eric, and today I'm going to be doing an unboxing, initial impressions, and review of the Nitro Deck controller grip for the Nintendo Switch and Switch OLED. I primarily game in handheld mode, and if you own a Switch, then you know that using it with the Joy-Cons is an ergonomic nightmare. I was an early adopter for the Satisfy grip when it was on Kickstarter. I have the Hori split pads, but I never had a controller grip. So when the Nitro Deck was announced at the Summer of Games event in 2023, I pre-ordered one right away. Then I waited 3 long months. Well, it's finally here, so let's dive in. The first thing you'll notice in your unboxing experience is that there is a sticker letting you know that you need to turn on Pro Controller or wired communication before use. Also, the sticker is very hard to peel off because apparently they use the strongest adhesive known to mankind. Now that I've accomplished the Herculean task of peeling that sticker off, I'm going to take a look at the buttons, but first I'm going to clean off this little bit of adhesive that was left behind from the world's strongest sticker. The first thing I noticed was that the right thumbstick was missing. I immediately thought to myself, great, I got one without a thumbstick. Thankfully though, it was inside the box. I don't know if all of them ship like that, but mine got to me without the right thumbstick on it. Now for the first twiddling of the sticks to see what these Hall Effect joysticks feel like. They don't feel that bad, but not that different. Now for a quick weigh-in to see how much you're going to be adding to your Switch. The face buttons are pretty loud and cheap feeling, and the D-pad seems kind of basic. The back of the controller is a different story. The rear remappable buttons have a very subtle and satisfying click to them. The joysticks click like any other joystick. If anything, I'd say it's a little louder than most. The ZL and ZR triggers feel like mushy analog triggers. They kind of remind me of the PlayStation 4 triggers, and they make close to no sound when you press on them. The L and R buttons, on the other hand, are the complete opposite, and to me feel like the loudest and cheapest feeling buttons. I'm not a fan of this rough texture here because your Switch has to slide across that whenever you install it and take it out, and I feel like that could be a risk for scratches. Before using the Nitro Deck for the first time, I'm just going to go through the step of turning on the Pro Controller wired communication. Here I am installing the original Nintendo Switch into the Nitro Deck. You're going to see a lot of play between the Switch and the Nitro Deck, but don't worry too much about that because as you will see coming up, it actually has a very secure fit and doesn't leave any visible gaps. And right there you can see the notification that the Nitro Deck was recognized as a wired Pro Controller. Here I give it a pretty aggressive shake test to see if the Switch will stay secured, and I'm glad to say it passes the shake test. Now I'm pushing on the edges of the screen here to see if the Switch moves around while it's in the Nitro Deck, but as you can see, it's very snug. Now for the combined weight to see how much you'll be holding. Now let's take a look at the kickstand. I was genuinely surprised at the amount of resistance that this kickstand has. At first, I thought it was stuck. I'm actually able to swing this kickstand out all the way to the point where it kind of becomes useless. I think it was a smart design choice because other kickstands can only go so far, and if you have a kid that pushes it beyond the threshold, there's a potential for it to break. The kickstand allows for a wide range of viewing angles. It's perfect for dropping the Switch down to watch your favorite streaming services. However, for gaming, it instantly renders the Nitro Deck useless. It wouldn't make sense to use a wireless controller while having the Nitro Deck because, well, you could just use the Nitro Deck. That would just be an extra thing to carry. Now to eject the Switch, you gotta press this little button in the back and gently push on the screen upwards until it slides out of the Nitro Deck. Let's take a closer look at the mechanism that keeps your Switch secured. Now let's put in a Switch OLED model. As you can see, there is no play at all like the original Switch when you put this one in. It's a very good fit. Now we're going to get the weight of the Nitro Deck with the Switch OLED installed. I already had Pro Controller wired communication enabled on this Switch beforehand, and to my surprise, it did not detect the Nitro Deck at all. I started to go through all the settings and menus and see if there was something else that I had to do to get this thing to work. I have seen other videos on YouTube where people were having the same exact issue. When everything failed, I just turned off the Switch. After I turned it back on, the Switch detected the Nitro Deck. That seemed to have remedied the situation. Now I'm going to test out a few games using the Nitro Deck, and the first one is going to be Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. There was no noticeable difference between using the Nitro Deck and a traditional controller here. I found it to be very comfortable, and you don't really have to press many buttons to play Mario Kart. This is a Hori game case for the Nintendo Switch, and I do not recommend buying this thing, and you'll see why in a second here. I was getting ready to call the fire department to bring the Jaws of Life over for this thing. Don't buy it. It's a total piece of junk. Get it out of here. Let's flip this thing over and show you how it looks from the top. There's a cutout here for the cartridge flap, and that was a thoughtful detail. And I discovered this by accident while I was doing this part, but this thing stands up on its own. How cool is that? But I wouldn't do it. Let's move on to another game. This one requires a little more button input than Mario Kart, and it's The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And yeah, that's right, I never updated this game so I could have my duplication glitch, so don't judge me. Alright, here we're just moving around and testing both sticks out. Now the stick on the right is a little out of the way, and you kind of have to do like a claw grip to really get to it. To avoid that, you could just use the center of your thumb so you could control your camera movement and also have access to the face buttons. Alright, so we're going to put this thing to the test and see how the duplication glitch works, and it seems to be working just fine. Now I'm just testing out the face buttons here and doing some more slightly complicated inputs like the shield surf just to see how everything goes, and it's relatively normal, pretty much the same as using a regular controller. Here's a test of the motion controls. I personally don't like motion controls in handheld mode. I usually like to reserve that for my Pro Controller while I'm docked. Lastly, we're going to try out Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and this game is where I ran into one of the biggest problems that I and many others might experience with this device. You're going to hear my genuine reaction when I discovered this issue.
That's weird. I'm trying to do up smash. Oh, that's... yeah. Something is up there.
Having these analog-like triggers on this device was not a good design choice in my opinion. It has too much travel and you can literally rest your fingers on the triggers and get an accidental input. Here I'm pressing as lightly as I can before it could activate, and as you can see, the slightest touch will trigger this input. Here is a clip of a genuine unwanted input. This was when I was playing Mario Kart earlier. Pay close attention to the word go. Just as it's fading away, you can see that I accidentally honked the horn, but can you see my fingers even press the button? I tried lowering the stick sensitivity in the options menu, but that did not help. Now compare that with the Pro Controller and notice that there is no failed inputs. If anybody else is experiencing this with Smash Brothers, please let me know in the comments below. Now to the rear of the device. You have an input and an output. The input allows you to charge your Nintendo Switch while it's in the Nitro Deck. I think the placement is not too bad, and it allows you to lay the Switch on its back while the cable stays out of the way. In order to use your Nitro Deck in wired mode, your Switch has to be docked and powered on, and I'll tell you about that in a second. Then you manually have to put the Nitro Deck into wired controller mode, and to do that you need to press and hold both thumbsticks in for 3 seconds until the LED light on the home button turns orange. I am not a fan of this extra step. Earlier I mentioned that the Nintendo Switch has to be powered on prior to using the Nitro Deck as a wired controller, and that's because the Nitro Deck does not have the ability to wake the Nintendo Switch, whether it's being used in handheld mode or docked on your television. I had a lot of anticipation for this device. Cracked created a lot of hype behind this with limited edition color variants, bundles, and the occasional update videos. I couldn't wait to get this into my hands, but after the hype cloud settled at the end of the day, the Nitro Deck was not as impressive as I hoped. There are just better options out there that add less bulk to your Switch and have more versatility. Nixie has just launched a pair of what I like to call big boy Joy-Cons, which have all the same features that the Nitro Deck offers, such as the Hall Effect joysticks, motion controls, rumble, hand grips, remappable back buttons, and it could also be used as a wireless controller if you just want to play docked or in tabletop mode. It also saves you from having to constantly take the Switch in and out of a full body controller grip anytime you want to play docked on your TV or on the go. Cracked did a decent job at best, but it did not knock it out of the park. If you're looking to dress your Switch up like a Steam Deck, then the Nitro Deck is for you. I can see that they were trying to be unique and set themselves apart from the plethora of detachable Joy-Con options that have been available for a long time, and I give them props for that, but it just doesn't offer anything above average. I think that Cracked was a little late to the party, and for now I would hold off on getting a Nitro Deck unless it seems like something you will really enjoy. As you know, we are getting closer to the end of the Nintendo Switch's life cycle, and we don't know if this will be compatible with the next generation Nintendo system. I think that the smart thing for Cracked to do right now is to hold off on a new version of the Nitro Deck for the current Nintendo Switch and learn from their criticisms. While I'm not a fan of the current Nitro Deck, it has a lot of room for improvements and upgrades that would give it a chance to make a comeback with Nintendo's successor to the Switch. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. And more importantly, I hope that this review will help you in making an informed decision on purchasing this product. If you made it this far, please consider subscribing and dropping a like and enabling notifications. That way, when I drop a new video, you'll be the first one to know. My name is Eric. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.